Most desks are just furniture with wires hiding underneath them. These 12 upgrades quietly turn that same desk into something that thinks, adjusts, and works alongside you. And the transformation only gets more impressive as it goes.
Every upgrade on this list eventually sits on top of the same static surface, a desk that hasn't moved, adjusted, or changed with you in years. Most people don't think of their desk as a limitation until they've spent an entire afternoon locked into the same seated position, shoulders tight, focus fading somewhere around hour 3. The FlexiSpot E7 Pro rebuilds that foundation from the ground up. Its dual motor frame lifts smoothly from a seated height to a full standing position in seconds. Quiet enough that it never interrupts a call, strong enough to support a genuinely loaded workspace, monitors, dock, lighting, all of it without a wobble. Programmable height presets means switching between sitting and standing becomes a single tap instead of a decision, so the shift actually happens instead of getting put off until tomorrow. It's not just about the option to stand, it's about removing the friction that normally keeps that option from ever being used. Every product that follows on this list depends on this same foundation being right. Starting from $399, it's less an upgrade to the desk and more a rebuild of the space everything else lives on. But a desk that adjusts on its own means nothing if the body sitting at it every day isn't adjusting too.
Standing desks solve one half of a stiff, static day. The other half happens in the hours still spent sitting, and most chairs handle that badly, forcing one fixed posture regardless of how the body actually wants to move throughout a long session. The LiberNovo Omni Dynamic Ergonomic chair works differently because it doesn't hold a single position at all. Its dynamic frame moves with the body in real time, subtly shifting recline, lumbar support, and seat pressure as posture naturally changes throughout the day, rather than locking a person into one rigid setting from 9 until 5. Motorized adjustments let it learn and adapt to individual movement patterns instead of relying on manual dials that get set once and never touched again. The difference shows up less in any single moment and more by the end of a long day. No lower back tightness building silently for hours, no constant shifting trying to find a bearable position. It's the kind of upgrade that doesn't announce itself, it just quietly removes a source of daily discomfort most people have simply accepted as normal. Starting from $900, it's the most significant single investment in this list, focused entirely on how the body feels, not just how the desk performs. With the body and the desk finally working together, the next friction point is everything tangled underneath them.
A modern desk setup usually means a monitor, a dock, a charger, a hard drive, and a laptop all fighting for the same few ports, plugged and unplugged constantly, depending on the day. The Anker Prime TB5 docking station ends that entirely. Built around Thunderbolt 5, it delivers up to 120 gigabytes per second of bandwidth through a single cable, enough to simultaneously drive high-resolution displays, transfer large files at full speed, and charge a laptop, all at once without any of the bottlenecking older docks struggle with. One connection in the morning replaces the ritual of plugging in half a dozen separate cables, and one disconnection at the end of the day takes the whole setup with it. For anyone who works between a desk and a laptop bag, that single detail changes the entire relationship with the workspace. It stops being a commitment and starts being something that can be entered and exited in seconds. At $399, it's the piece that quietly makes every other upgrade on this list function as one coordinated system, instead of a pile of separate devices. Once everything is finally connected through one cable, the next question becomes how the screen itself is actually positioned.
A monitor sitting flat on a desk stand rarely sits at the right height, angle, or distance for the person actually looking at it, and most people adjust their neck to the screen instead of the other way around. The Ergotron LX Pro premium monitor arm flips that relationship. It mounts the display in open air, gas spring balanced so it glides into any height, tilt, or distance with a single hand. No tools, no wrestling with awkward stands. Once it's positioned correctly, at eye level, arm's length away, it stays there through a full day of adjustments without drifting back down. It also frees up the entire desk surface underneath the monitor. Space that used to be lost to a bulky stand is suddenly available for anything else. For anyone who's ended a long day with a stiff neck and never quite connected it to how their screen was sitting, this is the upgrade that quietly removes that cause entirely. At $199, it's a small piece of hardware solving a problem most people never think to blame their monitor for. With the monitor finally floating exactly where it should, what's left is organizing everything that used to live underneath it.
Freeing up desk space is only useful if that space doesn't immediately fill back up with loose cables, a laptop, and whatever else needed somewhere to sit. The UltraRM modular wooden monitor stand turns that reclaimed space into an actual system. Its solid wood frame holds a laptop, tablet, or phone on interchangeable mounts, with a hidden drawer and tray for the small items that otherwise end up scattered across the desk. Everything has a defined place instead of accumulating in whatever gap is left over. It's less a monitor riser and more a quiet organizing layer underneath the rest of the setup. The kind of upgrade that makes a desk look intentional instead of merely functional. Starting at $119, it's a small structural fix for the clutter every other upgrade on this list would otherwise leave behind. With the desk itself finally organized, the last physical layer left to upgrade is the one touched more than anything else on it. Most keyboards are an afterthought. Loud, mushy, or built for a gaming aesthetic that has no place in a clean workspace. The Logitech MX Mechanical takes the opposite approach. Low-profile tactile switches that feel precise under every keystroke, while staying quiet enough for calls and shared spaces. Housed in a graphite aluminum frame that looks like it belongs on a designer's desk rather than a gamer's. Backlit keys adjust automatically to ambient light, and a single charge lasts weeks rather than days. It's the rare keyboard built as much for how a workspace looks as for how it feels to actually type on for hours at $170. Paired with it, the Logitech MX Master 4 replaces the vague scroll and click of a generic mouse with genuinely precise control, an ergonomic shape built for hours of use, and quiet clicks that don't announce every move to the room. At $120, it's the other half of a setup built to disappear into the work. Underneath both, the Aothia double-sided desk pad ties the surface together, a full desk leather mat protecting against scratches and spills while giving the keyboard and mouse one continuous surface, and flipping for a different look whenever the desk needs a refresh. Starting around $25, a small detail that makes the desk feel finished. With the hands finally covered, what's left to fix is what the eyes are actually working under.
Overhead lighting rarely reaches a desk the way it needs to, either too dim to work under comfortably or bright enough to wash out the monitor with glare. The BenQ ScreenBar Halo 2 solves both problems by clamping directly onto the top of the monitor, casting light down onto the desk itself instead of into the eyes or across the screen. An auto-dimming sensor continuously reads the room's ambient light and adjusts brightness in real time, while a secondary backlight glows softly behind the monitor to reduce the harsh contrast between a bright screen and a dark room, one of the most common causes of eye strain during long sessions. Everything is controlled through a small wireless dial. No app required, no phone needed mid-task. It takes up zero desk space since it mounts entirely on the monitor itself, solving a lighting problem most people have just learned to squint through. At $214, it's the upgrade that makes every hour spent working under it noticeably easier on the eyes. Task lighting solves how the desk works during the day. What happens around it once the work is done needed something else entirely. A desk that's perfectly lit for focus during the day can feel sterile and uninviting once the work is actually finished. The Govee Floor Lamp 3 exists for that shift, standing beside the workspace rather than on it, washing the surrounding room in tunable light that ranges from crisp daylight white for focused hours to warm, layered color for evenings spent doing anything but work. Its dual-sided design lights both the wall behind it and the floor in front, filling the room rather than just the desk, and it adjusts automatically through the day if left on a schedule. Where the ScreenBar handles the task of seeing clearly, this handles the feeling of the room itself. At $149, it's the difference between a desk that's just well lit and a workspace that actually feels good to be in. With the way the room looks and feels fully dialed in, the last sense left untouched is sound. Most desk setups rely on laptop speakers or a soundbar built for a TV. Thin, flat audio that makes music sound like background noise and calls sound slightly underwater. The Fluance Ri71 reference-powered bookshelf speakers replace that with genuine, room-filling stereo sound built specifically for a desk-sized space. A 120-watt built-in amplifier drives a two-way design with an air motion transformer tweeter for crisp, detailed highs and a woven glass fiber driver for accurate mid and low end, delivering the kind of separation and depth laptop speakers were never capable of producing. HDMI ARC support means it doubles as a genuine soundbar replacement for video calls and media, while Bluetooth handles wireless streaming from a phone without needing a single extra cable. Physical bass and treble controls, along with a proper remote, mean the sound can be tuned to the room instead of settling for whatever a manufacturer decided was good enough. For anyone who spent years working in silence or shallow audio without realizing how much it was missing, this is the upgrade that makes that absence obvious in the first 5 minutes. At $499, it's genuine hi-fi sound built for a desk, not a living room. Every upgrade so far has improved how the workspace functions or feels. The very last one changes what actually sits at its center. Every other upgrade on this list has been building toward the thing actually being looked at for 8 or more hours a day. The Dell UltraSharp U4025QW is a 40-inch curved 5K display that replaces the need for a second or third monitor entirely, wide enough to hold a full multi-window workflow without a single bezel breaking the view. Its color accuracy is precise enough for professional creative work straight out of the box, and its built-in KVM switch lets it control multiple connected devices without touching a single cable. Everything else on this list, the desk, the chair, the lighting, the sound, exists to support what happens on this screen. At $1,749, it's the centerpiece the rest of the setup was quietly built around. None of these upgrades exist in isolation. A desk that moves, a chair that adjusts, a screen positioned correctly, light that actually helps instead of straining, sound that fills the room properly. Each piece solves something the last one couldn't reach on its own. That's the real shift here. Not a desk covered in gadgets, but a workspace that finally works the way an actual day unfolds in it. Start with whichever piece is causing the most friction right now. The rest can follow, one upgrade at a time. If this changed how you're thinking about the space you work in every day, subscribe, because Gizmo Wonderland exists to keep finding the technology that quietly makes everyday life better, one upgrade at a time. Links to every single product on this list are waiting for you in the description below.